Don't make him so proud. He's proud of me.
Because he blow his own nose.
Alright, I don't know what that means, but the biotic community
It's normal.
is
She's not playing the full deck.
That's not right for that.
Put a lid on it.
So let's do this again real quick. An organism is what is another name for organism? Individual. Okay, so an organism is one individual. It can be a plant or an animal. And what is a population?
Of one species that interact between one and another.
Okay, so individuals within a population are all of one species and they interact together. One person, how about Gloria? Tell me what a community is. Okay, so populations, different populations. So a crane population, there's like a fish population there, the frog population, the dragonfly population, and the grass populations all interacting together. Josh, what is an ecosystem?
Teacher.
Okay, I
They're
found this.
getting points.
A limited area in which living and non-living things interact.
Okay, so an area, a limited area where the non-living things, what are non-living things?
Clouds.
Okay, abiotic things, which are the clouds. What comes out of the clouds? Rain, water. There's also water in the lake. What else is in this picture?
Grass.
Rocks and soil. Grass is living, so that's biotic. So it's where the non-living and the living, what are the living things?
Rain.
The crane, the frogs, the birds. Yeah, okay, so all these things. It's where the non-living, the abiotic, and these biotic things interact. And a biosphere, what do you think, if this is where all these things interact, what is a biosphere?
Where all the
ecosystems.
So it's a bunch of different ecosystems all together forming our wonderful, beautiful Earth. Okay, good.
So the biosphere is
The big picture. The big picture. Okay? And then you can break down the organism down this way. What's smaller than an organism?
cell.
Insect.
Okay, bigger than a cell.
Insect. Molecule.
Those are organisms.
Molecule.
Organelle.
Tissue.
Bigger than that.
Organ.
Bigger than that.
Plant.
Skin. Parts.
Those are organisms. What are the parts?
Atom.
Body parts.
Tissue. Or
Bigger than tissues.
Bacteria.
that organ.
Okay, bigger than organs.
Fat.
What?
Proteins. Meat.
How about organs all working together?
Body.
Digestive system.
What is that?
System.
System.
An organ system. Okay. Organ system. What's smaller than an organ system? What is smaller than an organ system?
Cell.
Organ.
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 What's smaller than an organ?
Cell.
Tissue. And then that, a cell. Good. All right. And then you can go back down and you can say molecules and atoms as well. Okay, good. So this is how the whole world works. It's one layer on top of another in a way. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Absolutely
beautiful.
gorgeous. Okay, so I'm going to the next slide. So there's different types of populations. There's producers, consumers, and decomposers. Let me erase this bit. What do producers all have in common? You had to answer this in a question.
An organism that manufactures its own food.
Okay, so producers manufacture their own food. What is the most popular way for producers to manufacture their own food? Photosynthesis. Okay, they can use photosynthesis. There's also some that do not use sunlight. There's things that just use chemicals. And they're called
Mushroom.
There's no, mushrooms are typically over here in the decomposers. Anyway, but producers produce their own food. Okay. What do consumers do?
They use food manufactured by other organisms.
Eat. So consumers.
Good try, Josh.
All right. Consumers eat other organisms for energy. Add on over here. Produce own food for energy. Are producers. Consumers eat other organisms for energy. That is most of the animals you know, most of the plants you know are producers, most of the animals are consumers. Yeah, remember they have a nematocyst, and the nematocysts grab onto fish and things and pull it in.
Then how about what's the
Huh?
파리 먹는 그.
What's that? Yeah, so that is a plant that is also a consumer. It is a producer. It does do photosynthesis, but at the same time, what is that? It's a what is that called?
Hell of the parties.
Okay,
Fly.
Flycatcher. I think it's a flycatcher.
hellfly?
Okay, so it's got a few different names that people know. But yeah, it also traps bugs and things like that, and it uses this chemical to break it down, and it gets the nitrogen and carbon out of it.
They just melt it.
They have a substance that helps melt them. Yeah. Okay, so most animals you know are consumers, and babies too.
That is great.
Yeah, it's a baby lion going to die.
Wow.
Okay, and then what are decomposers?
Organism that break down their organisms and returns this material to the soil.
Okay, so yes, these break down dead organisms. Okay, so a lot of worms are decomposers, fungi are decomposers, and bacteria.
Then how about hyena?
Where would a hyena go?
Consumers.
A hyena is a consumer. Okay. Photosynthesis is that process where, right, so a question was asked, how do producers produce their own food? They produce it through photosynthesis, which uses sunlight on leaves to create chemical energy in the form of sugar. Good. So there's an energy flow between producers, consumers, and decomposers. So the producers first make energy from the sunlight. The sunlight hits their leaves. The leaves convert light energy to sugar. And then consumers eat the leaves. These little worms are eating the leaves. The bird might eat the berries, but it's also eating another consumer. And then when the consumer either defecates or dies, it's either, so if the leaves die, the bird dies, the bug dies, or the bird poops, those decomposers eat that dead material and turn it back into soil. So it's a circle in a way between producers, consumers, and decomposers.
So what is die?
Die?
I know that you said if the consumer dies.
So yeah.
You said before die.
Okay, so if the plant dies, it will go into the soil. If the bird dies, it will go into the soil. If it poops, it will go into the soil too. And all of those things are refreshed and made soil again by fungi and tiny worms and other things. Do you still have a question?
So the material broken down by the bacteria is used by
by the producers again. So the decomposers break it back down into soil, and the producers then use that soil again to grow.
Sure, but why mushroom is
It just eats off of dead things for the most part. So if you go into forest, you notice that a lot of mushrooms are on dead trees.
But
There's also some that are not. There's some that are consumers too, but a majority of them are feeding off of dead material. There's even some that just specifically grow in piles of poop. There's like, if you go into like a cow farm, there's always like a cow patty, which is the poop, and there's mushrooms growing out of the poop. Yep.
Then it's fly decomposer.
No, a fly is going to the dead things to lay its eggs in the dead things. Yeah.
Teacher, so decomposer, like change the dead body into soil and producer use it.
Yep. Okay. So that is the general energy flow. And that leads us to trophic levels. Okay. There's food chains.
So can you
Huh?
erase? Can you erase the board?
Yeah. What direction does energy flow?
Up.
How does energy flow? How did we just show it?
Producer.
From producer
Consumer.
to consumer?
Consumer. Waste materials to decomposer.
Okay,
to
so-
soil and again.
Good. So there's intermediates, but between organisms, it's from producer to consumer to decomposer, and then back through the cycle again. Okay? So the energy flow from one trophic level to the other is known as the food chain. And trophic levels involve those producers, decomposers, and consumers. I'll show you in just a moment. So a food chain is simple and direct. It's a pattern. It typically is shown in an upwards direction, but we'll look at it more clearly in a second. Okay, and these involve primary consumers, also known as autotrophs or producers. Oh wait, so I apologize. This is the first group is the primary consumers. They eat the producers. And then the secondary consumers typically eat primary consumers. So what do you think that is? What do you think the first type of animal is that eats the producer?
Rabbit or
A rabbit? Think about small things.
insect.
Or insects. So primary consumers are normally herbivores or insects. And secondary consumers are carnivores, but they're not that big. So like what kind of things?
Fox.
A fox could be there? No. Secondary consumers, they're eating herbivores.
Birds.
Some birds. Coyotes. Coyotes might be higher up. Okay.
Mammals.
Oh.
Small mammals.
Okay, so like dogs and things. Okay, small. Maybe a monkey. Okay, and a tertiary consumer is eating the secondary consumer. So these are top predators. Who would be a tertiary consumer?
Lion.
A lion.
Tiger.
Tigers.
Bear.
Humans. Bears. Oh my. What else? Huh?
Hawks.
Hawk. Yeah, a hawk could be one.
A tiger.
Okay, that was said. Okay. And decomposers are the bacteria and fungi that break down the dead organisms and recycle the material back into the environment. Okay? So,
A worm is decomposer.
yeah, worms too. Okay, so I'll show you a visual representation of this in a moment. Let me see if there's any more. Or actually, no, I'll wait a second.
Teacher, all this is represented by a pyramid, right?
Mm-hmm.
What pyramid?
You'll see in just a moment.
Why? You'll see. You'll see. No, you'll see.
Everywhere.
Where is that? Ah.
Teacher lost the lesson. Wait. Please. First, you can stop.
Okay, I'm going. Alright, so this is often shown in an ecological pyramid. It shows the relationships between the consumers and producers at these different trophic levels. And it shows the relative amounts of energy or matter, which is, what is matter? What is matter?
Physics.
Okay, what in physics is it?
You can touch it.
Can you touch him?
Yes, I can touch it.
Okay,
Matter.
so what makes him matter?
Touch.
Okay, what else makes him matter?
Weight.
There's weight involved. So this is the two important things shown by an ecological pyramid are energy and matter. Matter is weight. Yeah. Okay, and I will show you how that works in a moment. Are you taking notes? It's
Is this going to be on Pinterest? Do we have to take notes?
if it's beneficial to you, yes.
Well, I'm thinking and I'm memorizing and I'm trying to follow it. And buy my brain.
Put your back against that. Right here. Put your back against that.
He said, don't push my this one.
So don't do that. But sit there. Okay, and this pyramid also shows which level has the most energy and the highest number of organisms. What level would have the most energy, you think?
Primary.
The primary? Primary what?
Primary consumers.
Consumers?
Primary producers.
Maybe the primary consumers, maybe the primary producers. What would have the biggest number of organisms?
Primary consumers.
The producers? And you say the primary consumers? We'll see in just a moment.
Primary. All right.
All right, let's look at this. Okay, so here's that pyramid. This one has 4 levels of consumers, but that's not always the case. Okay, and energy is lost from one trophic level. These are trophic levels. So when the word trophic level comes, it means the producers are one trophic level. The primary consumers are another trophic level. This way. And put your feet down. Okay. The secondary consumers are trophic level. The tertiary consumers are trophic level. And sometimes you have a quaternary set of consumers. They're up there. Okay? And they can be represented by a pyramid because there is a lot more energy down here at the bottom. And there's also a lot more mass. If you collected all of the plants that fit into the producer group, they would weigh a lot more than the mass of all the top consumers.
Oh, the first consumer is
Insects or rabbits or something. Anything that eats a producer.
Then what about
Anything that eats a primary consumer. So what would eat an insect?
birds?
Birds. What else would eat an insect? Lizards. How about something that eats a rabbit? An eagle? Or a snake? Or a fox or something? Okay. So you're already maybe understanding how these things could get construed. Yes?
Are humans fourth?
Humans
Fourth consumer?
are typically near the top. They're different for different environments. Okay? Alright. Okay. And here's the numbers. So this shows that there are many more organisms at the bottom of the pyramid than there are at the top. Okay? So if there's something like 5 million plants down here at the producer level, there will only be like 500,000 primary consumers, which are those rodents and small birds and insects. And then for that, there'd only be 5,000 secondary consumers, which would be snakes and hawks and coyotes, foxes, and maybe ferrets too. And then at the very top, there would only be very few of those organisms. Okay. So an important phrase to remember is that many producers, a vast number of producers, are required to support a very small number of top consumers. That's a star. This is really hard to do. Many, a vast number, a very large number. Can you poke that matter again? Ooh. Suit.
It was very violent.
No, it wasn't. He was just like this, and
It's okay.
I wasn't
It's
hard.
okay. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Poke this other matter in front of you.
Okay.
Every matter.
Okay. Let's go on to the next slide. Alright, so then there's something called a food web. A food web reminds us that species can interact with more than one. They interact in many different ways. So think about, you've got your food pyramid over here, and you've got producers at the bottom, and primary consumers, and secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. Okay, what did we say was in the primary consumers?
First consumer.
A rabbit, okay? What eats a rabbit? A fox? What else eats a snake? What else can eat a rabbit?
Rabbit eats a fox?
No, what can eat a rabbit?
Rabbit.
So a fox can, a snake can. Think about birds.
An eagle.
An eagle could eat it too. Okay, so you got an eagle, you got a snake, they look the same, and you got the fox. Okay, so those are my animals. You got an eagle, a snake, and a fox. Okay, but what can the eagle also eat?
Snake.
It could eat the snake,
Snake, yeah.
and it could eat the fox too, right?
Yeah.
So is the eagle on the secondary or the third level?
Third.
Third?
Third.
Yeah, third. Both, actually.
Both? Okay.
Yes.
So this is where food webs come in. The food chain, the food pyramid does not always work, so food web makes a little bit more sense. So in addition to those two-way interactions, there are other opportunities that may be more subtle, even more indirect, and might have intermediary relationships. So things like a food web make a bit more sense in these situations. That second point you don't necessarily need to write, okay? I'm going to skip it. Okay, so food web is that most organisms do not just eat one organism, they eat multiple organisms. And when more organisms are involved, you should use a food web rather than a food chain. Food webs are more complex and involve lots of organisms. Okay, so what does a web look like in your mind?
Spider
A spider web?
with all crisscross.
So what does that mean? What happens all over the place? What happens with two?
Crisscross.
What is that place called where they cross?
Intersect.
They intersect.
Center.
So there's a lot of connections. Okay. Let's look at one of those now.
Humans eat everything.
Okay. So what is this level? That is just material. But what is this level here? Bacteria and fungi. Decomposer. Okay. What is this level over here?
Producer.
Decomposer.
Plankton. How about that right there? What is that?
Decomposers.
No, they can actually do photosynthesis quite often.
Producer.
So that's a producer.
What plankton do?
And I think I feel like there's a little bit missing here. Okay, so some plankton can, yes. And then there's all these things that eat it. So there's waterfowl and birds. So that could be your primary level. But then the fish also get eaten by the bird. Okay, so things get complicated, right? They get complicated fairly quickly. So this is a more accurate image of what goes on between organisms.
Oh, we did.
Josh is dead.
Alright.
Can I see here?
Just go to heaven.
Let's go. So here's another image. You do not have to take notes on this. It's just another version of it. Okay, so notice that the direction in food webs points up. Okay? Not what we ate, but what ate what.
Okay.
What are you eating? How big?
Oh.
Okay, so tell me what level each of these things are at.
Grass is.
Shh. Write it on a piece of paper. Do this on your own.
We have to give it to you.
Can I take a picture, please?
Do everybody else work on this, please.
Okay.
So tell me what trophic level it is in. Remember trophic levels. Producer, first consumer, second consumer, third consumer, or fourth consumer.
With a separate sheet of paper?
Just, yeah, give it to, put it on a sheet of paper and we'll look at it in a second.
Can I do it in my notebook?
I'll get the score in a minute.
You were right.
Sure, what is hog?
My mom was making my life.
The hawk is the bird.
Hog?
Hook.
Hog.
Teacher, trophic level is for first consumer, second consumer, right?
So producer, first consumer, second consumer, third consumer, fourth consumer. So try to work this out.
I think they're saying.
Right, just figure it out and write it down. There can be right answers, wrong answers. We'll see.
Teacher. No. Go. P is producer. Oh, drama producer.
Toby.
소리야, 근데 이거 아니 진짜.
Where are you going?
아.
Bye, teacher.
Bye.
What? What? Bye.
아싸 민재 간다.
그거 아니야.
All right, let's just do one here.
건강해. 잠깐 소금 떼는 거 아니야? 오.
Let's do the grasshopper. Let's do the grasshopper. What trophic level is the grasshopper at? That's okay.
One.
One what? One what?
One.
See? So let's do the numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What level is the grasshopper at? 2. It's at the second trophic level. Why is that? Is it a producer or a consumer?
Consumer.
It's a consumer? Okay.
Oh, producer.
No. Is a grasshopper a producer or a consumer?
Consumer.
Why is it a consumer?
Because it eats grass.
So it eats grass. So what consumer is it? Which number? The primary consumer. Good. Okay. So work out these other ones. Josh, you need to be working on this right now. Nope, because you got a grade on this, so work on this now. You got 5 minutes.
Mouse is second consumer. I didn't know.
Is it eating another consumer? In this picture. Don't think about the big world, think about just in this picture. Don't think about the big world, just think about this picture. Do you think things in this picture can have multiple titles?
Yes.
Alright.
Mouse is.
Alright.
Teacher. So in that is hawk 4 or owl 4. Isn't it owl 4? I think owl.
Multiple things can be at the same level, but think about where it's at. It can have 2 titles possibly.
Tiny consumer is the top, right?
Yeah. Just pay attention to these arrows, okay? Don't make other arrows in your mind. Just think about the arrows that exist.
doesn't hawk is more higher than owl. No?
Just think about the arrows that exist here, okay? Don't overcomplicate it. Alright, 2 more minutes. You can work with the person beside you. Sam, you can work with the people behind you.
Me?
No, other Sam.
In piece of paper it's okay, right?
Huh?
In piece of paper it's okay, right?
It's fine. You got 2 minutes.
지금 뭐 하는 거야?
한 다리가 프라이머.
마우스도 세컨드 같이.
혼자서 이거 번호편이 혼자서 영양제
지금 그래서
Teacher, does mouse eat grass?
Looks like it.
Eat nuts. Eat nuts is
It could. Yeah, it could eat. It could eat the little berries and nuts of the plants. Yes. Only pay attention to the arrows that exist here. Don't make any other errors.
There's 4.
There might be. There may not be. Pay attention to the arrows that exist here. How many people are done?
Me.
I'll open before, right?
Huh?
I'll open before.
If you think that's the right move. Pay attention.
They can be 3 and 4.
Yeah, they can have multiple titles if you think they'd have multiple titles. Yes. Alright. Alright, so, Josh, tell me what grass is here.
producer.
Okay? So what trophic level does that put it at?
First.
Good. Subi, tell me about mice.
Second.
Okay? So what does that make it?
Primary consumer.
Yeah, so we're just going to put a P, consumer. Okay, so a mouse is a secondary consumer. It eats something that is on the grass. It could be like the seeds in the grass. Think about grass. Some grass is corn, so it could be eating the corn off of some grass.
They can eat bacteria on the grasses.
But just think about the obvious connections here. It can't eat that, but yeah. Okay. Let's go with the frog. Billy.
Yeah.
What is
Frog.
the frog?
Is second topic level.
No.
Third.
So the grass is number 1. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, third.
Third. So what does that make it?
It's
Second.
secondary.
Secondary consumer. Okay. Julio. How about the hawk? Hawk. Okay. Yeah. So from grass to mouse to hawk. It's the third level. So what does that make it?
No.
Owl is third.
The hawk. Oh, yeah, the hawk. Okay. The hawk. So it's third. What does that mean? What is it? Secondary consumer. Okay. How about the owl? Fourth.
Why?
What else could it be?
Third.
Okay. So if you go this way, if you go from the grass to the grasshopper to the frog to the owl, it's fourth. But how about this way? Grass to mouse.
Third.
Okay.
So what is
It's third. So you can put
Well,
both.
hawk could eat grasshoppers too.
Okay, I said just focus on the connections that are there. We're not going to overcomplicate it. So the owl in this scenario can be third and fourth. So what does that make it?
Tertiary and secondary.
Okay, so secondary and tertiary.
Tertiary.
Secondary and tertiary. Yeah, let's say that word, tertiary.
tertiary?
Good. Okay, and in all actuality, the hawk could probably eat a small owl. So what would it be if you had an arrow there? What's that
It's still.
next level called?
Oh.
Thatcher.
No,
That's
so that's 4, and so this would be 5. What would that be? Think, so
Predator.
think primary means 1, secondary means 2, tertiary is a word for 3. What is a word for 4? You think?
Fourth.
That would be 5.
Well, 30.
How do you split up a dollar in America into 4? Quarters. So think about a word related to that.
Quaternary.
Okay.
Oh.
Quaternary. Quaternary. Useful word.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe. Maybe. Maybe.
Oh. What's your name?
Alright, yeah, so there's the answers. And yes, in all actuality, there are many more connections there. What else could, what other connections could be here? The mouse could eat the grasshopper.
The frog can eat the.
Some frogs could eat the mouse, yeah. Okay.
The
Frog
frog
could
can
eat the
the
mouse?
grasshopper.
Yeah, there's some frogs that can eat it. The bullfrog can eat
Frog can
a mouse.
eat frog.
Huh? Which one?
Frog.
The hawk can eat the frog, yeah?
Oh.
Grass could eat a grasshopper.
No.
Oh, there is a
I
plant.
can eat
I mean, there's a kind of insect.
Oh, not. It wouldn't
that
eat a
could be
grasshopper. The
no,
grasshopper's a
no.
little too big.
There is like a pot, and then if there's any insect go inside the pot.
Yeah, but they're typically
yeah.
smaller.
No, but still, they could eat frogs.
No, and lizard.
And even the one.
The lizards are typically very small.
Teacher,
Yeah.
and even who eat the flies that we talk about could
Uh-huh.
eat frogs too.
Yeah.
Oh, but it has to be very big, but they are.
So there is.
But they are mostly there.
But
there is.
it also necessarily wouldn't be a grass. It would be another kind of plant. But it's okay. But yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. Good.
Teacher, then we are the primary consumer and secondary consumer.
Us? Yeah, we can fit into both, right? What is the problem? What is that?
Vegetarians.
Okay, vegetarians. Vegetarians are primary consumers. If we were completely carnivorous, we'd have to be secondary or tertiary. But what's the problem there? What are we?
No, highest.
We are that.
Come
on.
What is our diet like? We're not carnivores.
We're omnivores.
We're omnivores. So omnivores fit in this weird place where they don't fit in a food chain very well. Good point. It will show up in your reading, that point specifically. Okay, good.